Hey, everybody. It's my favorite day of the week. It is Tuesday, and we are live with our webinar. So I'm super excited to be here today. And we're covering a really important topic. I think with this dead period continuing to extend all the way through May, I just felt like this is a topic to cover. I've been getting a lot of families that have reached out and have been asking questions about, how to navigate during these times and what they can be doing to create exposure. So I'm going to share my screen here and we're going to dive right in to this topic. First, I want to talk a little bit about me, just to kind of give you an idea of who I am. My name is Kara Hill, and I run a business called My Recruiting Solutions that I opened almost 11 years ago. It's been 10 and a half years, crazy. But I work with athletes from all over the country, and I help student athletes navigate this process, everything from identifying schools that would be a good fit based on what your family is looking for academically, athletically, socially, geographically, and financially. And we manage that video editing, we put together a target list of schools, and we utilize our software platform to help you stay organized throughout your recruiting journey. In addition to that, I was actually recently just named the director of the Under Armour All-American Selection Camps and Games. I'm really excited about that. I was selected to be in this position because I do travel pretty significantly, creating content and scouting players already. So I was really honored to be selected to run these selection camps and games. And so I'm excited as more and more information as we start to put some stuff out there. It'll be really fun to interact with you all. So there we have it. Just a little bit more on my background. Over the last 10 and a half years, we've had a 100% success rate. All of our athletes have had multiple offers to compete at the next level. Athletes that are aiming for scholarship money, the average return on investment has been over $150,000. This is important to families that may be looking for scholarship money. Not everybody that contracts with us is looking for scholarship money. Some people are hiring us for a leg up into a top academic school. But I talk about our success rate and helping student athletes because I think it's really, really relevant as we dive into this topic and we begin to talk about recruiting and how to be more effective in your recruiting campaign and how to gain exposure. I think it's really relevant for you to understand kind of where I'm coming from. So the recruiting process is one big marketing campaign, and you may or may not be really fully aware of that. You should be casting a very wide net to about 60 to 75 schools, and you should be running a really aggressive campaign. Now, when you're looking for exposure, I think it's important for you to take into consideration how important it is to get an athletic evaluation and create a target list of schools. You need to get an assessment to figure out if you're targeting the right schools in order to not only gain more exposure, but to have more interaction with coaches. So if you find yourself right now emailing coaches, not really getting any responses, that kind of tells me maybe you're aiming at the wrong schools. Sometimes, during season, the athletes are in a season right now. So sometimes we're going to see longer delays in responses. Some of that is normal. So if you're hearing from coaches, but it's just kind of trickling in right now, some of that's normal because they are playing right now. And that's unusual. Normally, this time of year, we would have a lot of interaction with college coaches, right? And they would be out and about, they would be scouting, and they'd be evaluating. But because of COVID, they haven't had that opportunity. Many coaches have had strict restrictions about getting out. So the NCAA has a dead period that's been enacted all the way through May 31st. we're being told that after May 31st, it's either going to open up to a full-blown evaluation period or it's going to transition to a quiet period. So it'll be really interesting to find out what the NCAA decides to do here. There's a lot of coaches that have been super anxious to be able to get out and do some real evaluations. So we're really kind of keeping our fingers crossed that before nationals, we begin to see that dead period get lifted. We do know that the dead period is going to lift. We just don't know yet. We cannot confirm whether it'll be a quiet period or a full-blown evaluation period. So what can you be doing right now, right? That's kind of what you're asking. How do I gain more exposure? What do I need to do to create some momentum? The first thing is creating that target list of schools. And so if you find that you're not getting reactions, if you're not getting any responses from coaches, you need to go back to the drawing board and really look at the programs that are on your list and really begin to figure out, are these schools realistic? Are you aiming too high, for example? A lot of athletes have a tendency to do that. They aim too high. It's awesome to aim high and to have that, dream list of schools, but then you've got to have a little bit of a, reality check, if you will, and come down a little bit and then look at, an additional subset of schools that are far more realistic. So one of the reasons that we say to cast that really wide net, 60 to 75 schools, if you're on Scout Scholar, you can kind of click, you can use the map and identify areas in the country that most interest you, and then you can search from there. So Scout Scholar is actually our recruiting platform. It's free. You can go to scoutscholar.com and create an account. We even have an app that you can use. Once you create an account, you can use it to email coaches and search for information. What's really cool is that all the contact information for the college coaches is right there at your fingertips. So as you're running this marketing campaign and emailing coaches, it really allows you to save time and energy, trying to dive into that stuff. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at that. As you go to build that target list of schools, as I said, you really want to cast that wide net and have 60 to 75 schools. This is what it looks like in Scout Scholar. So you can see the name of the coach, you can see the sport, obviously the division, the athletic conference, and they give you some statistics on the school. This little mailbox here allows you to email the coach directly, but actually when you click on the name of the institution, it gives you an overview, it shows you the roster, all kinds of valuable stuff. So I do highly recommend that you do that so that you can run this very effective campaign. Now, when you're trying to gain exposure, film is a really big part of this. And so, last weekend I was out at the Sunshine Qualifier. It was so good to be back in the gym and to be getting all these girls and seeing everybody play. Hopefully you've been following along on Insta and TikTok because I've been posting like crazy all the film content, which has been super fun. But what I would say is, I saw a lot of parents. Obviously there's a parent, kind of that team parent that's at the back that's filming the whole court, which is great. I did see some parents that were filming kind of like me on the sidelines trying to get some content. Content is king. And I think it's super important that you are sharing film with coaches consistently. And so, it's not just sending game film. You can get creative. Some people have been more locked down than others. I love this video of Jaylee, who is there touching a basketball rim that just kind of shows or proves to a coach that she can actually dunk and touch over 10 feet. So if you are one of those outside hitters that is really good and you want to show your athleticism, that ended up getting a lot of attention, just so you know, the fact that she was able to dunk. This is another client that we have that wrapped up. Her name's Ashlyn Stone. She's kind of telling her story right now. She, during COVID, was totally locked down. And so she ended up sending this whole story about what it was to, find ways to get out on the court and play. So if you are in an area of the country and you're tuning in and there's not a whole lot of ways to get content right now, putting up a net and doing what you can to create your own content and to share stuff is, a good thing to do. This particular player is going to a Division II school. She's going to University of Mount Olive. She just committed on a really substantial scholarship. So we're excited about that. And I think what's important to show here is, regardless of your talent level, whether you're a high level Division I player versus, D2, D3, having that target list, knowing who your target market is, and being able to run that effective campaign is what's ultimately going to get you the most success and ultimately the most exposure. When you're sending messages to programs where you can't play, so if you're targeting University of Nebraska and you're not one of the top 1% in the country, you're not going to get anywhere with those messages and with that content. You might get a email to a camp where they can try and generate revenue off of you, but you're not going to get that engagement that you're looking for. So it's important that you get that athletic evaluation and you kind of know where you stand in terms of the level of play. You can get an athletic evaluation through us. Certainly, if we schedule a consult with your family and get to know you a little bit better and really begin to understand your goals, you can send over film and we can kind of get an idea and give you some perspective on who you should be targeting. If you're wanting to do this process on your own, consider talking to your club coach and asking your club coach, who do I remind you of and where did they go off to school? And really pay attention to where those athletes went so that you can look at the schools that they went to, really research the athletic conference and determine, if that would be a school or a conference that you would be interested in. So casting that wide net and running this campaign is ultimately going to help you get the most traction. Running a consistent campaign is crucial. So if you're only sending out an email every now and then, every couple of months and feeling like you don't have an update, you cannot expect to be on somebody's radar. Okay. So that's where a lot of families go wrong, is they don't run quite that consistent campaign that they would need to run in order to be super effective. So I just like to show different types of video to give you an idea. This video is of an outside hitter. You can kind of see that up at top. So it gives you an idea, whether you are in a position where you're able to play right now and you're able to get content, or you're somebody that's in more of a closed down area, there's always ways to gather content and to be sharing that with them. In terms of the actual marketing campaign, I referenced this a little bit before in terms of the consistency. The consistency of your campaign also plays a part in how much exposure you are getting. So I'm going to outline kind of what you should be doing at this stage of your recruiting journey. As a freshman, you should be emailing college coaches at least once a month. So once every 4 weeks, you should have a highlight reel to that same 60 to 75 schools. And by the way, after getting an athletic evaluation to make sure that you're targeting the right schools, okay? So then you should be emailing coaches that same 60 to 75 schools once every month with updated highlight reels as well. So any way to get film content, and I just showed you, it's starting to warm up in other parts of the country as well, whether you have to be out on a grass court or you're fortunate enough to be in an indoor court. We're hosting events around the country with prep volleyball. In fact, there's going to be some new announcements here pretty soon. We'll be at Big South, we'll be at JVA World Challenge, Colorado Crossroads. There's quite a few tournaments that are coming up, and we're actually going to, in addition to hosting showcases, we have Under Armour All-American Selection Camp tryouts that are also going to take place in these events. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. But in terms of running your recruiting campaign, if you're a freshman, once every month, you need a highlight reel. So whether you're going to an outside event like what we host or a different event, or you're creating that content on your own on a grass court, for those that play beach, maybe you're on a beach court, any of those things will do, but you need to have a highlight reel at least once a month. Okay, so for freshmen, once every 4 weeks. For sophomores, if you are targeting Division I schools and you truly are a D1 candidate, you're somebody that can actually play Division I volleyball, you should be emailing schools right now as we head into June 15th, every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks leading into June 15th, because in June, you are going to be very busy on the phone. If you are truly a D1 athlete and you have been running a very effective campaign, every 2 weeks, you should be sending out an updated email. And again, your highlight reel, if you can have one at least once a month, is most important. If you are a D2 or D3 or NAIA player and you are in your sophomore year, you can go to every 3 to 4 weeks. You can still stay on that very consistent campaign. The reason that I say that is different programs make decisions at different times, and you don't want to burn out of your recruiting journey. There are definite strategies to be used as you go through this recruiting journey to not only be more impactful, but to have great success. And at the same time, you don't want to burn yourself out. This is a lot of work. And parents, if you're tuning in, I would highly recommend that one of the parents is actually taking responsibility and managing the marketing campaign to ensure these 60 to 75 emails are getting out on a consistent basis. So for Division I athletes that are in their sophomore year, every 2 weeks, if you are not targeting Division I schools, you are okay to be emailing coaches every 3 to 4 weeks as you head into the fall of your junior year. Juniors, you should be emailing coaches every 2 weeks, and seniors should be emailing coaches every week. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how important the consistency of your campaign is, because different programs are in a different place with being able to make decisions. And right now, with all of these players that have an additional year of eligibility, so athletes that are in college right now, whether they're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in college, those players have an additional year of eligibility right now. So I just want you to understand that there are less and less opportunities right now to be recruited. There are less options. In addition to that, there are coaches that are going to face some budget cuts with how many athletes they can carry on a roster. So when I talk about being consistent, when I talk about running a marketing campaign, it's because I want you to be successful in this recruiting process. And the only way that you're going to truly be successful is if you're running this very effective campaign. So consistency will not only pay off, but it really matters. Now, if you're looking for more exposure, you're hoping for that opportunity for somebody to stumble on you, because coaches don't have the ability to get out and recruit, you need to be creating content on social media. And I think this is really an underplayed action. We're starting to see more and more athletes that are creating Instagram profiles. Press sports is really growing in popularity. Those of you that follow me or that have been tuned in this before know that I'm a huge fan of that Press Sports app and the Press Volley program. Press Sports is a app that athletes can download, and they can create highlights and post their highlights to share with other athletes. It's a really fun app. It's very similar to TikTok, and this is the logo here. I would highly recommend that you create a Press Sports account, and there's a couple of reasons for this. Number one, college coaches have begun registering for accounts, and they are scouting this platform to identify players that could be a good fit for their program. So, you never know who could stumble on your profile and stumble on your video just from having content on there. So, parents, when you're sitting on the sidelines at tournaments, I think it's so important that you're like sitting on the sidelines and you're filming just like this, and getting that content of your player that can then utilize those clips to post. So not only are you filming from the back court, hopefully you have one team parent that's filming from the back court and getting film, but then you really want to put somebody in charge of getting content from the sidelines, because the content is so much more engaging close up. Your highlights for college coaches will come on YouTube, and you'll post your highlights from the middle back or the right back of the court. You're going to create content to post on YouTube to share with coaches. That's where your highlight reels are going to be displayed. But your content for social media should actually be filmed vertically, and you should really be standing on the sidelines to try and get that content, because it's more engaging and more interactive. You'll also find that you'll end up getting a lot more followers, a lot more recognition on this Press Sports app, and they're doing a great job in terms of featuring players and trickling out content. If you're looking for more exposure, these are ways to get exposure. And I think not enough families realize the importance of being super active on social media. Instagram is another great tool. College coaches can actually search Instagram. They'll search a variety of hashtags to identify players in recruiting classes. So I think, with Instagram, there's been a lot of players that have created, volleyball only accounts where, they're putting their first and last name in their recruiting class, or volleyball, they're incorporating that somewhere. That works fine. I'm actually a fan of just an athlete looking at themselves as a brand and posting personal and volleyball on their Instagram accounts. Not everybody wants to do that. That's really actually the reason that the Press Sports guys got together and created that app. Not everybody's a fan and feels like they're boasting if they post their clips. I just think these athletes need to look at themselves as a brand. And this is becoming increasingly important because the NCAA has passed legislation to allow for athletes to get paid on their likeness. So all of these things that I'm talking about are a little bit ahead of the game and a little bit before the time, but these are things that are definitely going to be relevant in your recruiting journey, and definitely for your athlete as time goes on, because there are sponsorship deals and things of that nature that can come about as time goes on. Twitter is a really good source to not only locate the college coaches that you've been communicating with, via email. You can do a great job at really researching what's important to them. Which tweets are they liking? What are they reposting? What are they tweeting? You kind of want to get a feel of the personality of the coach, and you can DM on Twitter. This is way more popular in football and in basketball than it is in volleyball, but a lot of college coaches have Twitter accounts, and it can be a really good way to kind of get inside the head of a college coach that might be recruiting you and get a sense of what is important to them. So I would highly recommend checking out Twitter. Especially as you're creating content, you might get inspiration from a quote or something that they have shared, and you might be able to run a really cool quote and kind of retweet it at them or share the quote with them. You can do a lot of things to really engage with coaches on social media, so I would highly recommend that. Facebook, I think it's very important that you create a Facebook account. I also feel that your athletes should create a business account. And if you're really looking for more exposure, you can actually run targeted ads to college coaches. And no one is talking about this right now, but I do it all the time. I will create videos of players and I will run a targeted ad to specific college coaches that I want to see the content, because I feel like this player could be a really good fit for their program. And so I run targeted ads on behalf of my clients. You could be doing the same thing on behalf of your athlete. This is something that is really forward thinking. No one is talking about this, but it is definitely relevant. So if you create a Facebook page for them, make it a business account, you can actually run targeted ads through Facebook and Instagram to ensure college coaches are actually seeing your child's content, so that they're seeing those highlight reels that are being created. So that is a very cool tip. TikTok is the fastest growing software in the country. It's the fastest growing social media platform really in the world. And I would highly recommend, this is where I'm most dominant. I got in relatively early. I have almost 750,000 followers just on TikTok alone, really gaining a lot of traction there. That would be a place I would definitely spend time. The thing is, the reason that I'm talking so much about social media is, listen, college coaches are on these platforms. We're all on these platforms. There is somebody on every program that is engaged in one of these platforms. So what does that tell you? It tells your target audience is there, and you could be gaining exposure in front of them by running a very cool ad or posting content all the time. So I would highly recommend, if you're looking for more exposure, you need to find a way to get creative with this content, and you have to make sure that it's engaging. Okay. So you can't just post, like, pay attention to what I'm posting and pay attention to the style and how it's being shared, because there's a reason that I'm getting 3, 4, 500,000 views, millions of views on different videos. And you kind of want the same thing for your athlete. So to create more exposure, especially during these unprecedented times when college coaches are on planes, they're on their social media, we're all on our phones. So as they're traveling, as they're getting around their day, everybody's spending a lot of time on their phones. So I would highly recommend using that as a tool. Okay, that wraps up today's workshop. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have. I actually had one question that came in, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that. What if the freshman player is just learning and skills are not at a high level yet? Do you still post content? And the answer to this question is yes, you should post content. And the purpose is to show your child's journey as they're going through this recruiting process. So as they're learning the game, as they're getting stronger, as they're developing their skills, it's really cool to kind of go back and reference. College coaches can see their growth and their progression over time. So I would highly recommend that you are posting content. You want to be cautious with what you're posting. You need to make sure that in terms of their technique and their skill set, that you're posting stuff that is, post worthy. But certainly showing that your child is learning the game is definitely something that's kind of cool. My daughter is 6. I have a Instagram account for her. She is at Miss Kiki Hill on Instagram, so you can take a look at that. So she's 6, just to give you some perspective, and we're kind of showing her journey and having fun and playing with that. What is your child's not in high school, entering high school, but playing at a higher level? Can we start creating content now and showing growth progression? The answer is yes. Your child does not have to be in high school. They can be in junior high, and you can absolutely be creating content. You want to create a presence and a following and start really being engaging on your social media. Again, I just think that this is hugely impactful, and these are things that no one else is talking about in the recruiting space. We don't have anyone educating families on social media and the power of it to get through your recruiting journey. So something that I've been talking about and certainly harping about, there isn't anybody else in the industry that has really been helping to create some awareness with just how powerful this tool is. And it's really impactful. So especially during COVID, when college coaches can't get out to recruit, think about what we all have been doing. We've been on our screens one way or another. So just think about it as a really cool opportunity to be, creating content and to be getting your kid out there. And then again, just as like a side note, you can be running like true ads and campaigns to your target market. So you could be aiming your videos to college coaches who fit the demographics of the schools and all of that stuff. So that is something that I think you definitely need to take a look at. Somebody is asking, oh, thank you, Melanie. Could you give some examples of the kind of information I'd be putting in the emails every 2 weeks? What are ways I can reflect my personality in the campaign? I didn't really talk about what kinds of content. I've talked about, learning how to story tell in weeks past, that you need to be creative. You're not sending the same email to college coaches every single week. So every 2 weeks for that matter, you want to open up and talk about your life, your experiences, what you're going through, always on a positive light. We talk about being super, super interesting and positive. You should be talking about your growth and your progression in the sport. You should be talking about the things that you're working on. You should talk about what you're passionate about. Are you involved in anything in your school, with your church? Are you helping your family business? I can't tell you how many clients that I've had that have been helping family businesses during COVID, not go out of business. So there's all kinds of things that you can open up and talk about that are really interesting. It's almost like approaching this as a creative writing project that you would do for school. You really want to think outside of the box, and you're learning how to tell a story. That's what a marketing campaign is. This is something that we work with our athletes on. So if you're looking for help in the recruiting process, we meet with you every 2 weeks to help you create the content that you need to put in your email to run a good campaign, to run a more effective campaign. And then we follow that up with reaching out to the college coaches on your behalf. It's kind of a tag team effort where we really push and advocate for you, unlike anything that you've ever seen before. So kind of work as a team with your family to really hold your hand through the journey, and then to be talking to coaches on your behalf as well, traveling to tournaments, creating content, all of that kind of stuff. So those are the things that we do. We'd be happy to schedule a meeting with your family and help you understand how we can work together, what it is that we really do, and give you an idea of how to actually navigate through this recruiting process. So that wraps up for today. I really appreciate all of you tuning in. Thanks so much. And we'll be reaching out to you this week to talk to you further and learn more about your family. And I really appreciate your time and your consideration. So thanks, everybody. And I hope to see you on the road soon. Bye.